Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer. There is a lot to talk about. I kind of want to talk about a little bit from each game. I will say that I've already made a video talking about the Thunder game from earlier, so if you want to see my thoughts on that one in great detail, mainly the big performances from Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey, go look at that video. I'm going to talk about it a little bit in this one, but probably not very much. I guess I'll just preface it with saying that Shea and Josh Giddey were incredible. The Sixers are just a good team. Seth Curry killed us in that first quarter. They need a little bit more bench creation, mainly. This is why they miss Simmons a lot, because typically Tyrese Maxey would be in that bench role, but obviously don't have Ben Simmons right now. So at some point, I expect him to come back and play, and when he does, those issues will probably be fixed, and I'm sure they'll trade him for someone that can also create a little bit. But for right now, Sixers ended up beating us. Great game from Shea and Josh. The Sixers are just good. They were too much to handle. So, like I said, if you want my full thoughts on that game, make sure to go check that video out. Make sure to like and subscribe as well. Really helps me out. First game I want to talk about in pretty great detail, and the one that's probably featured in the title of this video, is the Hornets-Nets game. The Hornets, I kind of want to make a whole video talking about them, so I won't go too much in depth about them, but it feels like the Hornets are building something kind of special here. I know it's only been 3 games into the season, but just the way that they play, I feel like their pieces fit together very well. They're young pieces that complement each other. It feels like every night someone is going off. Beating the Nets by 16 tonight without Terry Rozier, who's one of their best, if not their best scorer. 32 bomb from Miles Bridges, who I have on my fantasy team, so shout out Miles Bridges for that. Also, according to my guy Nick, Motown Noah, if you know him on YouTube, best rapper in the NBA. Don't quite know about that, but great performance tonight with 32, 9, and 2. LaMelo had 18, 5, and 5. You had kind of mediocre performances around that, but you did have 15 from Ish Smith, 7 from Jaden McDaniels, 5 from PJ Washington, and 6 boards. Everyone chipped in a little bit. It just feels like this team they're great. It feels like they are going to kind of make a leap, like they're ready to make one. LaMelo is consistently balling out. He's playing great basketball. And even when they miss one of their best players, something that I always say is that the good teams can still win games without their best players. Terry Rozier is probably their best, if not their second best player. I would probably put him maybe behind LaMelo, at least through this young season. But Terry Rozier is a great player, and so to beat a team like the Nets, who given are missing Kyrie Irving or are missing Blake Griffin, they were still 9-point favorites in this game. And the Hornets came out, kicked their butts in the Nets home opener too. The Hornets feel like a tough team. I'm going to make a whole video talking about them. I kind of want to talk about the process that they've went through and what I've really liked about what they've been doing as a franchise. But for right now, shout out to the Hornets. The main thing I do want to talk about in this section of the video is James Harden. Harden's had a weird start to his season. He hasn't been putting up bad numbers necessarily, but he's been putting up really bad numbers for James Harden. Obviously, without Kyrie Irving, they need better production from him. Last season, James Harden came in, and he kind of just became more of a facilitator than a scorer because you have Kyrie Irving, you have Kevin Durant. You don't need 3 guys that are dominating the ball, so James Harden turned into more of a facilitator, and he was great in that role. James Harden, if he wasn't on a team with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, may have been in MVP conversations last year. And if you remember, if you've been with this channel for a while, I made a video last season talking about how I thought James Harden deserved MVP considerations because of how good he was throughout the season. But coming into this beginning of the season, I know the season just started. I get it. I'm not saying James Harden is washed. I'm not saying he's bad. They need more from him. And it's kind of tough because he got super used to this playmaking role. That was his job. They need him to score the basketball the way that James Harden does. He has not been doing that up to this point. Tonight in the game, he had a pretty pedestrian stat line. He had 15, 7, and 8, which is okay for most players, but you're James Harden. Kevin Durant had 38, 5, and 3. He needs your help. He needs you to score the basketball more. And it's just, in general, everything is down for him offensively. Scoring wise, like I said, he's averaging just under 20 points per game. He's shooting way less free throws. He's only shooting 4 free throws per game compared to the 7.3 that he was shooting last season. He's shooting worse from ever. He's shooting 39% from the field. He's shooting better from 3 at this point. So give him credit for that. But you can't be shooting 39% from the field if you're James Harden. You can't be averaging just under 20 points per game. You have to be better. And in addition, he's turning the ball over at kind of a crazy rate. I don't think he's had below 5 turnovers in a game. It just feels like he's sloppy right now, like he's not hitting the shots that James Harden typically hits. I feel like it's going to take a bit. He is getting back into basketball shape. This happens sometimes with James Harden. Sometimes he comes into the season and he doesn't quite seem conditioned. But even in those circumstances, it feels like James Harden has, for his career, been putting up like 38, 13, and 9 games in his sleep. It feels so easy for him. And so it seems weird to see James Harden have such a slow start to the season. I'm sure he'll turn it around, but for right now, they need him to turn around quickly. Without Kyrie Irving, he has got to get back into that mindset of, I am James Harden. I am an MVP. I'm a scoring leader. I am one of the best offensive players basketball has ever seen. He's got to get in that mindset. He doesn't quite look as aggressive as he typically is. He's got to find his shot more. I understand trying to get everyone involved, and that's a noble effort. It makes sense. But without Kyrie Irving, you don't have a big 3, you have a big 2. And if you're not scoring, it's a big 1 for Kevin Durant and then a bunch of role players surrounding him. You've got to give him that offensive production. And I'm sure James Harden's going to be fine. I just thought it was something I wanted to comment on because we typically don't see these slow starts from Harden. It's very rare to see him go through even just any stretch of basketball like this. Like the only one I can think of is like a couple of years ago, he had kind of a rough stretch. And even then it was like still putting up good numbers. He was just kind of struggling offensively. I don't know. James Harden just seems kind of off right now. And maybe it is just kind of a adjustment period from the role he had last season. Obviously, I'm sure Steve Nash is still trying to figure things out. And the way that Harden is playing right now just shows how important it was that Kyrie didn't play half the games of the season. If Kyrie was playing, James Harden would not only have to figure out his role kind of right now when Kyrie wasn't there, he would have to figure out his role when Kyrie is there. And so having to go back and forth between those things would only probably contribute to his inconsistencies. Harden is going to be okay, but this is just an example of why the Nets kind of needed that distraction out of the way. You've got to give Harden the time to readjust, find his role, find his footing. He hasn't been looked at as a go-to scorer very often in his tenure in Brooklyn, other than that short period where Kyrie and Kevin Durant were out, and even then he was doing a lot of facilitating. One thing I will say that I also want to touch on with the Nets is that KD has been doing a great job facilitating. He had a triple-double the other night, which was something we typically don't see from Kevin Durant. He's getting guys involved. His playmaking looks really good, and it's just another evolution of Kevin Durant's game that he can just continues to do things better and at a higher level. He's one of the best players in the world, if not the best, so it makes sense. I just thought that was something interesting to note that I've seen from KD. Those are my thoughts on the Nets. They're going to be fine. Starting 1 and 2 is definitely not what they probably envisioned to start their season, but you know, tough schedule. They played the Bucks, Sixers, and now the Hornets, who I do think, like I said, are a pretty decent team. James Harden's just got to adjust. He's got to do better for them, and I think he will. It won't take so long, but for right now, it's just not there. Next game I want to talk about that was kind of ridiculous is the Memphis Grizzlies and the Lakers game. Ja Morant's insane. He's just ridiculous. He had a 40 and 10 game tonight, 40, 10, 3 rebounds, shot the ball well. He did pretty much everything right up until the end. Right at the end, he got fouled on a 3-point attempt by Kent Bazemore after some free throw shenanigans went back and forth, and he had the chance to tie the game up, send it to overtime with his third free throw. He made the first 2, and he missed it. It happens. I'm sure there will be some national media outlets that might crucify him. Ja Morant isn't clutch. Ja Morant's not built for the moment. Ja Morant is the definition of built for the moment. Missing that one free throw does not change everything he did in this game, and something that I continue to see with Ja Morant is that every time there's a big matchup, the play-in tournament, this big game against the Lakers, game 1 in the whole series against the Jazz, every time that Ja Morant has been asked to step up in a big moment, even going back to college when he was at Murray State, he always delivers. I have never seen Ja Morant shy away from the moment. He is always there for his team. He always puts his team on his back, and he's one of those guys that whenever you need him to, he is not afraid of the moment. He is built for that. And that's something that's really special in NBA players. It's tough to be an NBA player, to go into Staples Center against LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, and Anthony Davis, and go in there and have the guts to put up 40 and 10. He was doing he had the craziest layup I've ever seen. If you didn't see it, please go look up the highlight. I tweeted it out. If you don't follow me on Twitter, at 3_Conan on Twitter, I tweeted out. I think the caption was like "Ja is insane" or something like that. You'll see it. I'm sure it's all over Twitter. I don't know how he hit it. He was doing everything for his team, crazy passes. He's going to have the craziest poster dunk of all time at some point in his career with how many times he tries to posterize people. Ja is so much fun to watch, and he's my early leader for most improved player. his stats might not have the increase of some of the other guys, but his impact, the way that he's playing the game, and just he feels like he's so much better than last year, even if the numbers don't show it. Ja continues to get so much better, and if he continues on this trajectory, it's going to be terrifying for the league what he can become in a couple of seasons. I thought the Grizzlies weren't going to make the playoffs, to be honest. I didn't expect Ja to take this much of a jump. I thought the Grizzlies would be like right on the fringe of the play-in. They look like a team that's going to be firmly in the playoff picture. I wouldn't be surprised if they even skipped right above the play-in because I think Ja Morant is this good. The role players, Desmond Bane had 17, Steven Adams had 14. They're playing well. They were without Dylan Brooks tonight, who has been a big piece of their success for the last season or so. This is a good team, and Ja Morant just continues to step up, have big moments, even though they lost this game. Don't let that get lost in translation. Wins and losses shouldn't be the only determining factor of how good someone was. Ja was unbelievable. This is just one of many performances, and he continues to do this. Ja is built for the biggest stages, and it's super cool, I'm sure. For Memphis fans, it's cool to watch as a neutral fan. For the Lakers, getting their first win, they've had a lot of dysfunction, but this was probably their best all-around game played. LeBron didn't shoot well. He had 19, 6, and 6. Russ didn't shoot great, but he had 13, 7, and 13 assists. 22 from Anthony Davis. They got 28 from Carmelo Anthony, who kind of saved them in this game. He was really, really good. 9th all-time leading scorer now. I like what I've seen from Austin Reeves. That's a guy I want to mention. He feels like a guy that Lakers fans are going to fall in love with. He's just the scrappy dude who kind of came out of nowhere. He's played really good minutes for them. I've liked what I've seen from him. He played some big minutes in the game against the Suns, and I think he is someone who should stay in the rotation over a guy like Avery Bradley. I think Austin Reeves just kind of brings the energy. He had a crazy pass to Dwight Howard under the hoop too that shouldn't go unnoticed for an and one, I believe. The Lakers, they're kind of figuring things out. I like something that they did and that Kenny pointed out on Twitter that really helped me notice it, is that Russ was being used a lot as a screener kind of in the fourth quarter. Trying things out. They're going to figure things out as they continue to try new things offensively. This is a brand new team. It's something that a lot of people think kind of need to remember. There were 3 players on this team that were on the team last year. AD, LeBron, and Talen Horton-Tucker. Talen Horton-Tucker hasn't played, so there's been 2 players this entire time. They're learning how to play together, they're getting better, and overcoming a huge performance like Ja Morant's 40 and 10 game. That's a big moment for this Lakers team. They did drop confetti before the game was even over, which is not great, but they'll get better. Moving on from that, Boston and Houston, I don't have much to say about this. Shout out Jalen Green, 30-point game. I believe he had 8 threes. He set the record for most threes by a Rockets rookie. Great game from him. Jayshawn Tate had an incredible defensive stretch to try and kind of take this game back for the Rockets. It wasn't enough, losing by 10 to the Celtics. The Celtics, Jason Tatum, 31, 9, and 2, looking like Jason Tatum. Big game from Al Horford as well. He had 17, 10. He had a few blocks, an assist. This was a big game from him. These are the games that they need from Al Horford. Robert Williams only played 28 minutes, but he had 2, 4, and 1. Not great. Al Horford, I think he's a guy that's going to be a big difference maker for them. I think he will start over Robert Williams when everyone gets healthy. But for right now, they started them both tonight. 18 for Dennis Schroeder. 18 from Grant Williams, who I know Celtics fans hate, but he's been really good so far this season. So it's funny to see that on my timeline. The Celtics finally get a win. This was one that they needed. You don't want to lose to the Rockets to go down 0-3. The Thunder have been there. Next, Golden State versus Sacramento. Steph didn't shoot great, but 27, 7, and 10. He's been crazy on the boards this season, which is kind of weird for Steph. 14, 6, and 6 for Draymond, 17 for Wiggins, 22 for Jordan Poole, continuing the most improved player campaign. For the Kings, it just feels like, I don't know. One thing I want to say about the Kings, Davion Mitchell has been phenomenal. Off Night, if you don't know, that's Davion Mitchell's nickname, is one of the best nicknames in the NBA. And I just love watching Davion Mitchell play. The way that he goes at the opposing team's best player, he doesn't shy away from anything. He's faced Donovan Mitchell and Steph Curry in his past 2 games, and he's done his best on both of those two of the best scorers in the NBA. He is super fun to watch. I really enjoy him, and I think Sacramento got a good one in taking him with their pick. But Sacramento, it just feels like they're kind of stuck right now. The Warriors are a very good team, going up 3-0. I don't know. The Kings just kind of feel weird. Bad game from Buddy Hield, who's been phenomenal otherwise this season, only 6 points. Just good win for the Warriors, I guess. Not much to say about that game. And then finally, the Magic-Knicks game. The Magic at their first win of the season, being the New York Knicks. I feel like losing to the Magic this season should be 2 losses. So the Knicks, congratulations on your 2 losses. Really what I want to say is Cole Anthony was insane. 29, 16, and 8, as well as 20 points in the fourth, or I think it might have been all 22 of his points in the fourth quarter for Terrence Ross, who I hope the Magic trade to a contender at one point. Someone will give them a first round pick. I can guarantee you that. Whether it's the Lakers, the Sixers, the Bucks, the Nets, someone will throw you a first round pick for Terrence Ross, and I think the Magic should take them up on that immediately. 29, 16, and 8 for Cole Anthony is ridiculous. I like his game a lot. I'm happy that he's not getting kind of shafted by the addition of Jalen Suggs. I'm happy he's getting playing time. Obviously, Markelle Fultz did not play tonight, so maybe that'll change a little bit when Fultz comes back into the fold, but I like Cole Anthony, and I hope he keeps getting a lot of minutes. Mo Bamba had 10 and 13. I'm glad he's getting opportunities, even if he shot terribly. The Magic have been kind of fun, I guess. They're not good. They're not. As a fan of a not good team, I recognize that, but they've got their moments, and they got to win tonight over the Knicks. For the Knicks, 30 and 16 from Julius Randle. Julius Randle, once again, having a great season, but losing to the Magic is not something you want to do. So, those are my thoughts on all the games. Not a lot to say about the last few ones, just because, not a lot to say. But let me know what you thought about the games. Drop me what your takeaways were from tonight's games in the comment section below. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.